Good morning. How are you today? Everybody bring your notebooks and all the brain power you can possibly have, because you have to learn a lot today. And we're going to teach you a lot about product and how these products can help change your life. You know, Carico makes dreams come true. And what's really great, we can look at the economy, and to me, it's very, very exciting, because when I talk to friends and I tell them, how is our business? And I say, well, our business should have our best year this year that we've ever had. And they look at me like okay, you're going to have a good year? Yeah. Why? Because we have great products that people need. We have products that are timely in any economy. And today, more than ever, how many people today are more concerned about their health? Are you? Because I think we are realizing today the value of our health. So people are concerned about their health. They may not go out and buy that big home, or they may not go out and buy a boat, or they may not go out and buy all the luxury things, but they will buy things for their health, evident by the new people selling $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. It's here. This is not make-believe. This is real. And the good news you heard today, people are buying our products. Our closing average is about the same. It's higher. It's higher. But let's say it was the same. And the closing average in this room is about 70% of the people that are demonstrated this week will end up owning Carico. 50 to 60% for the new people, and 80, 90% for the experienced people, somewhere in that range. So it's about a 70% average. That means if we show the products to 1,000 people, 700 people are going to say, I want to own them. So the only question is, how often do you get the products in front of people? And how much knowledge do you have? Today, I'm going to give you knowledge about all of these products. And the reason I'm doing it is because I know more about these products than any person in the world, because I developed them all over the last 42 years. Every product here had my touch on it, and a lot of passion and a lot of love going into it. The first product we introduced was Fine China. Does anybody have one of my Carico pens? The original black pen? Ah, that's what I'm looking for. The original. I had the blue one too. It was in my office. I meant to bring it. I need it for a reason. The first product I introduced was Fine China. Even though we had products from other suppliers like cookware and other products, what I introduced first was Fine China, because we sold a lot of young girls for their hope chest or for future planning or brides, and they all wanted to own Fine China. Our china is quite special and quite unique, and I would say, I'm not quite sure the year we introduced it. Was it 1977? Late 78. 77, 78, we introduced our china. 88, 98, 30 years later, we have every piece and every pattern. There is no other company in the world that can say that. And the china we handle is the finest china available anywhere in the world. You know, the best in the world? How can you possibly say that? Because I spec it to be the best in the world. Let's talk about Fine China for a moment. When you select a plate, and you go through a selection process, the first thing you have to decide is how you're going to make the plate. Ours is made of the finest porcelain china that money can buy. And the process of the china is amazing. First of all, the clay, which is mixed into a slip, it's called a slip, it's a liquid clay, is put into a vat about the size of this right here. A huge vat, and it mixes the clay. But while it's mixing the clay, the vat's on vibrators, vibrating like this. You say, well, why is it vibrating? Because it wants all the air bubbles to rise to the top. And they do that for 24 hours before they start to use the slip. I don't know of any company in the world, other than our manufacturer, who builds it to our specifications that'll de-air their china that well. That eliminates the pimples and the bubbles that you see in a lot of china. When you look at it, you see the little holes and the little teeny, looks like needle holes. That's because the air, when they fired it, came out, and now it leaves little porosity in it. Caraco has none. Then when they make and they fire the china, they put it in a kiln. And again, they fire it, but our kiln is quite different because temperatures inside of the kiln change from the bottom to the top. Caraco china, each piece goes from the bottom to the top to the bottom to the top and runs on a conveyor that goes up and down, so each piece has the same consistent heat. And then they go through selection. Once the body comes out, they now put it through its first selection, and they look at them to see if everything's perfect. Inspectors are here under bright lights, and they grade the china into 4 grades. Obviously, the cheaper china patterns will use the 4th grade. Our company destroys them. We don't use the 3rd. We don't use the 2nd. All we use is first selection. The rest of them goes for other use. So we use only the top grade selection, which gives you almost a perfect body. It's fired for 24 hours, and then they apply the patterns. When they apply the patterns, if you look at a lot of china, you'll notice that when they put the platinum on, you can see the white on the side of the plate. You see from the top, you can see the white. So the platinum is just on the top. We roll our platinum all the way over the side. Why? Because that's the way China's supposed to be. So you have twice as much or 3 times as much platinum on a plate. Expensive material. In addition, they use a liquefied platinum. Ours is a pure platinum. They call it platinum, which means that it does not liquefy. And the difference is in the flatness of our pattern versus when you look at the cheaper chinas, you'll see that it's shiny and real tinsely looking. Ours is always a flat platinum, and it's pure platinum. And then they fire the china. They put the decorations on by hand, and they put the platinum on by hand. I am amazed how they do that. I was at the factory, and they said, spinning. I tried it. They said, try it. I said, okay, I tried. So I had a big band. I painted the paint by it. Just paint that sucker, because you got to have a steady hand to do this. So they have the masters dealing with our product line, the best. How do you tell fine china? There's 2 ways. One, it should have a bell-like tone when struck. It should sound like a bell. And number 2, it should be translucent. Let's see if it sounds like a bell. You hear it still ringing? For those of you who want a little experience, never hit it twice. Because if you go bam, bam, it could crack. The reason being it's vibrating, and when you hit it, it will send a shock through the plate, and you can actually crack it. I've done it once. And then I figured out, how did that crack? Well, you don't hit it twice until you stop it. Pretty strong, huh? And it should be translucent, which means you should be able to see through it. Now, let me see if I have a bright light here. They're not so bright, but do you see my hand through there? Yeah. If I could get it. Do you see the shadow through there? Yes, there. Yeah. So it's translucent, and if you put it up to a real bright light, which I don't have here, you see that? Okay. Now, if we were to crack this plate and stick it in ink, it would not absorb. It means there's no porosity inside of it. Now, how strong is this? Porcelain china is very strong. Let me show you how strong it is. So you can actually stand on your cup this way, not this way. Go ahead. You want to try it?
Do I have to pay for it?
No. No. That's. That's a test. So all of our china is made of the finest ingredients, the finest firing process. We use pure platinum and 24 karat gold. Now, I want you to think about this. Look at this decal. Each piece is fitted to the plate. So every piece has its own decal. Other china companies don't do that. They put it together, and if you look at them, you'll see there's different gaps in between them, depending on the size of the plate. This is crooked. You see how it's off here? The platinum is very poor and missing. So this is the kind of product that other people tend to manufacture because it's cheaper to manufacture. So you can get anything you want in China. When you buy China and you look at Dalton, Minton, Rosenthal, and some of the fine Lenox and so on, China is expensive. Part of owning China is that it's expensive. Because when you entertain, you say, look at my China. This is... There's a pride to it, isn't there? It's like a diamond. Any of you women want a cheap diamond with flaws in it? No, you want a perfect stone, the perfect color, no flaws. And part of owning a diamond is it was expensive. You know, let me ask you a question. If someone comes to propose to you, says, oh, I want to get married, I want to give you a diamond, and you find out afterwards it was a really junky diamond, had a lot of flaws, and it was really cheap, had a little crack in the bottom, what would you say? You know, I think it's time to take your diamond back. You cheap son of a gun. You know, so part of owning a diamond is that it's quality. Don't you agree? I'll tell you an interesting story. I used to demonstrate a lot of china. So when the customer, I remember demonstrating a woman, and I said, she picked out a pattern. I said, oh, that's one of my least expensive patterns. She said, oh, then let me look again. Because part of owning china is that you want to brag about the fact this is fine china, it's an heirloom, it's something. Now, women have been programmed to own china. All of their life, since they were little girls, they had a china or tea set. How many of you women remember when you were a little girl, you had a tea set or a china set, or you said, how many of you women in the room, let me see hands, had some kind of a tea or china set? How many of you still have it someplace stored? It's something you keep forever. If someone gave you a little tea set or china, you say, oh my God, this is something. So somewhere in your childhood, you've been taught, boy, you need to have fine china to entertain with. I know my daughter used to make me sit around and Daddy, I sit here, I'm making you something to drink and to eat. And you sit there on a little stool going, oh yes. Because that's what little girls do, right? So indirectly, everybody has been programmed somewhere in their life to own fine china, and it's very delicate and very special. Unfortunately for us, ours is not delicate, it's just very special. It's very strong, very durable, and will last a lifetime. But the problem with china is that in most cases, when people buy fine china, they go back 2 years later, 3 years later, and they want to add to their set. Or they want to get a broken piece. They broke a couple of cups. A friend's going to drop the cup. Oh, I need a new cup. Well, I'm sorry, we don't have that pattern anymore. Let me show you a new set. So you can invest $2,000, $3,000 in your fine china set, and if you break it, you can't use it. So what happens? You say, don't touch my china. Just put it in the cabinet and look at it. We don't use it because I can't get the pieces anymore. Yes? You've seen that with your parents or grandparents. Oh, don't touch it. You can't get those pieces anymore. Well, at Carico, you can get the pieces, and if you happen to break a piece, it's replaced at half price. So that makes our china very special. Something that you'll pass down from generation to generation. We have more pieces than any other china company in every pattern, meaning we have cups, saucers, dinner plates, demi-tasse cups and saucers, napkin rings, coasters, ashtrays. We have amazing amount of selection of pieces that most companies do not have. As a matter of fact, I don't know of any company in any one pattern that has as many pieces as Caraco does. So if you look at what Caraco's China program is very special. Our crystal. Is full lead crystal. Look at this. Look at this cup. Before I get to the crystal, I want to show you some. This is the most amazing cup in the world. The most amazing cup in the world, and you will never see one like this. How come? Well, you got to ask yourself a question. First of all, a black cup will show any flaw there is. So you have to have a good body to start with. Then they are going to put a platinum band on the top, a platinum band here, a platinum band here. Then they're going to put a platinum band here, but they're not going to get anything on the inside. And I look at it and go, you've got to be a master to be able to put that platinum on with a brush and not screw up the cup. Wouldn't you agree? So when you really look at that, this tells you the quality of Caraco China. Now, also, the cup has a flared shape. If you look at our crystal, you'll notice that I designed the crystal to match the cup. So when you put it on a table, they look like they belong together. You see the shape of the crystal and the shape of the cup, very similar. Now, of course, your crystal. Your hair's still ringing. That's fine crystal. Again, the difference between eating and dining is the china and the crystal you set. Now, women, sometimes we don't appreciate you because we sit down at a dinner, it's very nice. To a woman, the only difference between eating and dining when she sets her beautiful table, when she sets a table for her guests and her guests come, if you go to a woman's home, if you go to a home for dinner and they set a table, please take the time to compliment it because someone put time behind it. It's just not dishes to eat off of. If they set a china table for you with crystal and that, take the time to say, oh my goodness, your table looks beautiful, because that's why they spent all the time with the flowers and the little things. Am I right? Yeah. So you better say, oh, your table looks beautiful if you want to be a good guest. Don't just compliment the food, look at the table, because the difference between eating and dining is the table you set. The only difference. You go to a fine restaurant, it costs a lot of money. If you go to a restaurant that serves on fine china, get ready for a big bill. Because now you're dining. If you're eating, there's no china. And throw the dishes down. When you start out with the plate and you put the china and you look at the table and it's set beautiful before you sit down, you go, okay, this is going to be an expensive dinner. Yes? Because it's special. Why shouldn't every dinner be special? Why? I'm going to tell you something. You women want to keep the romance in your marriage or your relationship? Tell you what you do. Doesn't make any difference what you cook. It's not important. What's important is how you look and how your table looks when your mate comes home. He could have a lousy day. He walks into the house. He sees a table set for two with some champagne glasses out, a candlelight flickering, and he don't really give a damn about his day anymore. He knows what's for dessert. So he's excited. He's going, yes, tonight's the night. So you want to keep the romance in the marriage, set a nice table. Don't say, let's sit down and eat. Say, come on, sit down, go freshen up, we'll have something nice for you. And I don't care if you put ginger ale in this glass, it's gonna be nice. Wouldn't you agree? Now you can have the finest champagne in the world. If you put it in a jelly glass, it's like drinking Coca-Cola. Yes? the glass. Here's what I do sometimes. Sometimes I decide I'm not going to drink. So I order a Pellegrino or a sparkling water with a little cranberry juice. I put a little cranberry in and I put it in a wine or champagne glass. You get the same effect as if you're drinking a drink, but you're not getting the calories and the alcohol. But the difference is, if you put it in the heavy glass, it's water. If you put it in a wine glass or a champagne glass, I swear to God, the other night I was out and I had a martini. And afterwards I said, well, maybe I'd like that. And I go, Rick, you don't need another martini. So there was cranberry juice. I put a little cranberry. I put the sparkling water in the martini glass. I had a second martini. And I was drinking. I go, this is just as good as the other one. But it was because of the martini glass I was drinking it out of that made me feel I'm having another martini. Mental. It's amazing. It's amazing what can happen in your mind and what you think. I'll tell you a funny story. Had nothing to do with this. I bought two jet skis. My girlfriend's on one and I'm on the other one. I take them down the intercoastal waterway and I get on it. And they're a high output, high performance machine, and I'm doing 60 miles an hour. I'm like, whoa, this thing is pretty fast. At 60 miles an hour on a jet ski, you're barely touching water. Yeah. So now I said change. I want to see if the other one's just as fast. I go 50. 60, 70, 80, 90. I'm doing 90 on this thing. I'm shaking. I'm scared. I'm going, oh my God, don't turn. Slow down, slow. You'll flip this thing, you're dead. Calm down, slow down. And I'm nervous. I slow it down. Oh, whew, that's scary. This thing's a rocket ship. So I go back. I said, man, this is scary. This thing is so fast. It's dangerous. This is dangerous. And I looked down, and this one was set on kilometers, and the other one was set on miles. So I was doing the exact same speed, but in my mind, I saw 90. I thought I was doing 90 miles an hour, and I was scared, where before I was doing 60, I was okay. It was the exact same, because the kilometers to the miles was exactly the same. So it's amazing what the mind can do. I should have left it at kilometers. I'd have more fun. Look how fast I'm going, which I might switch it back. But the truth of the matter is the mind is an amazing thing. So if you think you're drinking fine out of fine crystal and you're dining the china crystal and the tableware that you set the table with is amazing. Now, let's talk about our tableware. Our tableware has polished tines inside. This is the finest 18/8 surgical stainless steel tableware. If you look at the back of our tableware, we have a pattern on it. So we do the back just like the front. This is the way sterling silver is made. So we use the same concept of sterling silver. If you put this next to a silver piece, the same pattern, if there was one, you wouldn't tell the difference. Because we use special polishing processes and special steel to make it look like sterling without the polishing. We polish the tines. It's strong. It doesn't bend. Look at the details. So you have the sterling look, the sterling feel, and stainless steel that you don't have to polish or you don't have to clean on a regular basis. So we have the finest. The only time we use silver, do you know where we use silver? Silver spoon? For Baby Pure. Because the silver, when we were younger, not when you were younger, but way back, way before my time. Okay, this is like prehistoric. Now, way before my time, in the old days, they would say, wow, that baby was born with a silver spoon. So that story went on. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth meant that you were born to a rich family. Does that make sense? You were born with a silver spoon. You were a privileged child. Now, what that really means, in the old days, they didn't have the refrigeration and things of that sort. So when they would feed the baby, if you had a silver spoon, it would help keep the bacteria growth or kill the bacteria on the food. So the babies who had silver spoons were more likely to live. They had a better chance of living because the infancy death was very high. So if you were born with a silver spoon, it means your family had enough money to buy a silver spoon for the baby keep the bacteria growth down. Interesting, right? But based on the fact we have dishwashers and stuff like that, we don't need them for adults. But we do have the silver spoon for the baby, for our Baby Pure program. So our china and crystal and tableware program is special because it has permanent pattern, open stock, half price replacement, and it is the finest china, the finest body, the finest design in cups, serving pieces, the largest collection of any china in the world, bar none. And 10 years from today, they'll still be able to get their pieces. If they break them, they get them at half price. Does that make sense to you? Now, if you were going to buy a fine set of china, you invest a lot of money, would that be important to you? Say, yeah, it would. Now, this pattern, I think, is just amazing. There's one at Dalton like this. It's about $400 a place setting. And if you go to department store, fine china shops, not Kmart, fine china shops, you'll find that china sells for $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 a place setting for fine china. So our china pricing is competitive and our warranties are amazing. So I think you'll see that if you understand the China program and you understand the difference in Caraco's China, you'll realize that Caraco stands alone in this product. One more thing. This is a competitive cup. For those you know, it's Royal Prestige. Now, if you feel the bottom of this cup, honey, what do you feel? A little rough. Feel the bottom of our cup. Now, it's not fired on the top, and it's not fired on the bottom. This is the only cup you're going to find that's smooth. The difference is, and you can hear it when you're eating. I want you to listen to this. Do you hear the difference? It's the clay and the firing. So it's not the quality of a Caraco plate. Finest. Want to give me a hand with this? Move this out of here.